This is an actual spacecraft from another world, and a government cover-up was initiated with a calculated disinformation campaign. Mankind has the unique ability to ignore the obvious, especially when the facts reveal a disturbing truth. For nearly 50 years, officials have been documenting routine alien encounters here on Earth.
On June 20th, 1995, Walt Disney Magic Kingdom had opened a new attraction in their Tomorrowland section, and are you ready for the name of this? It was named the Extraterrestrial Alien Encounter, often just called Alien Encounter. The actual attraction itself was a sit-down theater experience with a harnessed seat and special effects, and was said to be about 18 minutes, which lasts significantly longer than me. Although, it's not the ride we'll be talking about today. I assume you may have read the title. Some of you, potentially, may be thinking that I made this video before. And you're right, I did. But I didn't like the way that video kind of came off. I didn't like the energy of that video. It sounded very tired and slightly uninterested in recording. Because, yeah, that's what happened. In making that video, there were so many factors, and the biggest one was that I needed to shit. So here I am, redoing it with my natural energy. I hope you enjoy, again, and thank you for watching. Michael Eisner, the guy from Family Guy, had announced a new documentary going over the history of UFO sightings. Like I said, the attraction opened on June 20th, 1995, but the documentary itself aired as a TV special on February 27, 1995, hosted by Robert Urich. To start us off with the documentary, Mr. Eisner of Family Guy fame opens by saying that a top-secret military base, there are those who believe that the government is hiding the remains of a crashed alien spacecraft. Don't tell my English teacher, Mrs. Herrera, I may have actually plagiarized the exact thing that he said. However, do tell her that, I said, hey, I'm 24 now. Immediately, the 1952 UFO White House sighting, compelling home videos of UFOs, Jimmy Carter's reported UFO sighting, government misinformation programs to prevent mass panic, and alien abductions are all mentioned before the 3-minute mark. If you wanted to hook me, that's how you do it. Robert Urich presents the idea that humanity is on the cusp of making contact with other life forms, and that for nearly 50 years, officials documented routine alien encounters on Earth. And then, in an absolutely hilarious move, it cuts to him talking about the Alien Encounters attraction.
Now as we approach a new millennium, mankind is in the midst of the most profound event in history, actual contact with intelligent life from other planets. For nearly 50 years, officials have been documenting routine alien encounters here on Earth. And thousands of people have seen or experienced this alien presence. Yet many others still refuse to acknowledge the obvious evidence all around them. What is it like to be confronted by a creature whose intelligence and skill is far beyond the comprehension of mankind? Would it be enlightening? Would it be an exercise in terror? Or perhaps both? Here in the new Tomorrowland at the Walt Disney World Resort near Orlando, Florida, these concepts are brought to life as guests experience their own alien encounter.
I had to rewatch the documentary, and I completely forgot about this part happening. I remember it catching me off guard, and to this day, I still think that's really funny. The documentary then brings forth a couple of mass sightings. In Ciudad de Mexico on 1992, during a national holiday celebration, a UFO had been spotted in the sky by both military and the civilians on the ground. Dozens are said to have videotaped the craft. And I'm gonna need to be, that guy for a second and fact check them for, just all the shit they said right now. This sighting is actually not from 1992, but rather July 11, 1991. The description of this incident matches the one during the last total solar eclipse of the 20th century that was able to be seen from Hawaii to Brazil. Brazil. 3 different accounts of this UFO were made by people completely far from each other that day. two of them which had a recording, and one of them gave a description that matched the UFO from the recordings. Also, within their own documentary, the footage they show actually says July 11, 1991. Brother, how the fuck does that slip? Okay, fact check over. The nerd in me needed to come out for a breather. Okay, my bad. On August 18, 1991, in rural parts of Ottawa, Canada, a UFO had been recorded landing in a field. Researchers say that this craft showed undocumented technology, and blue flashing lights and burning red flames had been identified. The main witness was a lady named Diane Labanek. However, since she didn't have any evidence for her claim, she never came forward due to believing that no one was going to believe her. And well-known UFO researcher Bob Etchler, I don't fucking know this guy's last name. Bob had received a controversial videotape that actually depicted Diane's description of the craft. Bob believes that whoever recorded the craft had something to do with it, believing it to be either an elaborate hoax, a military operation recorded on private property, or a staged UFO encounter, which I feel like is just another way of saying elaborate hoax. This sighting is known as the Guardian UFO due to the package containing the word Guardian along with the videotape. The Gulf Breeze, Florida had multiple sightings during 1987 and 1988, although the documentary states them to be during 1994 and 1995. Get your fucking facts right, Disney. The Gulf Breeze sightings and photos are widely regarded as fake, but the topic itself has gone back and forth over the years. Then they mentioned that these sightings don't have media attention. The reason for that is because the government wants to maintain control over this topic. Captain Kevin Randall, retired Air Force member turned alien encounter investigator, is then introduced. Captain Randall talks about how when a technologically superior civilization makes contact with a technologically inferior civilization, the inferior one ceases to exist. That is really hard to say, and I got that in one go. I'm so fucking girl. This isn't necessarily due to conflict, but rather because the tech introduced to the inferior one will drastically change their social structure, quoted as disintegrating them. In 1960, a federally funded study by the Brookings Institute reports that if public knowledge of alien life happens, our civilization could collapse. I think it's going to take a lot less to do that, to be honest. Randall then says that because of this, the policy of cover-ups was then put into place. But not just that, a policy of ridicule was also set up. Retired Army officer Clifford Stone comes and talks about how he was given a lawful order to stop his investigations on UFOs while he was in service. Stone was told to not write to members of Congress without his approval of his command, and not to speak to members of the media. Then, in a baller move, he just kind of says, "Yeah, I violated all of that." Robert Urich states that the reason for the aliens being on Earth is because we invited them here. And I don't know why I'm being lumped into shit I didn't do. Robert Urich proceeds to quote Ezekiel chapter 1 from the Bible, in which the man named Ezekiel saw a wheel in the sky with the spirit of a living creature. This is referred to Ezekiel's wheel and is often regarded as a biblical UFO sighting. The belief that the atomic bomb is what attracted aliens towards us is a widespread belief within ufology. The belief here is that the blast of the bomb and massive surge of energy is what attracted the aliens and got them to notice us. In 1947, a spike in UFO sightings started happening, and because of, just getting out of World War II, everyone was like, damn. These two events are believed to be interconnected in a way. The atomic bomb detonating is essentially what people think that led to the 1947 mass surge of sightings. The sightings started with the Kenneth Arnold sighting and was then heightened by the obscure and not so well known the Roswell incident, right? You may have not heard of that. Then the idea that these flying saucers targeting US military was then tossed around. Thomas Mantle was the first pilot to die when he encountered a flying saucer. This started the fear that these flying saucers were hostile. You're not going to believe what gets mentioned next, because I sure didn't. Disney themselves had enough foreskin to mention the Majestic 12. I'm still shocked it went that far. Majestic 12 is like a B or C tier level of a conspiracies in terms of popularity, right? It borders on obscure, but it's not enough to be obscure. Ask any random person if they know who the Majestic 12 are. They most likely will say no. For those that may not know, the Majestic 12 was a supposed UFO research group created by President Harry Truman in order to investigate and potentially cover up UFOs, starting with Roswell. This exact thing is mentioned to the viewers along with a mention of a calculated disinformation campaign being organized. Government cover-ups are now the main topic of the documentary as of this moment.
While a classified investigative committee called the Majestic 12 was organized by President Truman, and a government cover-up was initiated with a calculated disinformation campaign.
The military, I know for a fact, has established what's called disinformation programs, officially sanctioned deception programs. This is covered by a regulation at Department of Defense level that's secret. This is the case with the unidentified flying objects.
Just a little bit of lying is what we're doing right now. The story of Roswell is just weird, honestly, as we know it to be originally a reported UFO and then being retracted to being a weather balloon. Following government documents that would mention bodies came out after this, but they're only secondhand accounts, right? Like just someone saying, oh, I heard someone say this. Nothing was ever confirmed. Over the years, there were lots of people who came forward and said that they were a part of the Roswell incident, but unfortunately, they offered nothing of value or only offered conflicting reports. Elaborate hoaxes trying to connect themselves to Roswell also came out, and honestly, this story is just very tainted. After this, the US military had tried to recreate these saucers and replicate what they saw them do. Footage of them shows them to look fucking goofy. On July 1952, reports of UFOs seen above the White House came out, and they were said to be able to outmaneuver human pilots. The funniest and absolute worst part about this incident is just how petty it is, and just how fucking stupid it is. There was an official cover-up that we know of. It's just not about aliens or UFOs. The Air Force covered up the fact that they just didn't know what the fuck they saw. They were like, lights in the skies? Over the White House? Nah, dude, don't worry about that. Then, into the 1960s, these saucers had been fucking with defensive systems so bad that the US and Russia had to come up with a way to instantly communicate with each other since these saucers could be misidentified as missiles. On September 1976, in Tehran, Iran, two F-4s had tried shooting at a UFO, and their weapons and comms had failed. On September 1991, NASA's Space Shuttle Mission 48 had captured what is believed to be alien spaceships when the cameras were pointed towards Earth's horizon for a live broadcast. Horizon? Is that a Trepang reference? To this day, NASA still refuses to acknowledge this incident. In the year 1995, right the same year as the documentary, FEMA, of all people, trained personnel with a manual of techniques on how to communicate with UFOs in case they were encountered during the line of duty. This was an extreme contrast to a law passed in 1969 in which no American could have contact with an extraterrestrial, or you'd be fined $5,000 or a year in jail. Robert Urich presents the viewers with FBI files released through the Freedom of Information Act that document almost 50 years of UFO encounters. The phrase, overwhelming evidence of something sinister is at work, is used. First, one small theory is talked about first. This is that alien visitors are actually microbiotic organisms and have been landing on here through meteors. These organisms would invade our bodies through viruses and have been studied to suggest that they are not from Earth. These are used to test on humans and Earth's environments by the aliens. However, just like we test on these organisms, these aliens test on us. Bud Hopkins, the lead investigator on alien abductions, comes to talk about how distinct patterns are often seen within abductees. These patterns are said to be being abducted multiple times, starting from childhood, being lifted from the ground once abducted, circular scars on the skin revealed through biopsies may reveal a removal of cells, and objects being inserted behind the ear, inside the nose, or behind the eyeball. Hopkins makes the claim that Aliens may be desperate for genetic material because the aliens may not have something that we do have. This is another popular theory within aliens and ufology, and it usually states that these aliens are dying out and can't continue going on, which is why they abduct us and even cattle. Some theories suggest that aliens lost their wieners, so they need ours. Fucking perverts. The most common type of alien seen within these abductions are the Greys, which are tied to about 99% of alien theories. However, reptilians and the mantis beings are also reported, and I remember seeing a theory about the Greys actually working for the mantis beings. That's not a part of this documentary, but the idea of some sort of alien hierarchy is kind of crazy to me. Due to the ridicule of alien topics, abductees usually say that they have no one to go to, since no one will believe them. No big alien abduction case is mentioned throughout this section though, which is a shame because there's some good ones. Right, the most famous one, the Hills abduction. Betty and Barney Hill get abducted, yeah. Or even Travis Walton could have been mentioned. I would have brought up Antonio Villas-Boas, the guy who said he fucked an alien. It's like that guy who said he shagged a Sasquatch. Fucking crazy.
It's worse. It's worse. As soon as she got my pants off me, she started like jerking the ween.
Towards the end of the documentary, the Jimmy Carter report is mentioned. While Governor of Georgia, President Carter had reported seeing a UFO in the sky, with many others also being there to see it. They mentioned how there are some security secrets that are outside the White House, as once he got into office, he tried investigating into the UFO topic, but got nothing. There's also a statistic given to us within this documentary. It's that within the US, you're more likely to be abducted by an alien than winning the lottery, at least in the year 1995. Then, in another hilarious move, it then shifts into talking about the attraction at Tomorrowland and how it's trying to prepare you for an encounter with an alien. Just as weird as it sounds, Disney, of all people, was talking about UFO cover-ups and abductions. It's just fucking wild how a lot of these ideas just go back that far along. I know 1995 isn't that far along, but like, it's still funny. Just, can you imagine Disney making this today? No, you fucking can't. They're gonna make another live-action reboot. I do absolutely, genuinely like that they're not dismissive of any sort of theories, but rather give evidence that support certain theories. Right? The government actively investigating UFOs while publicly dismissing them, cover-ups of an encounter with something unknown to them, and ridicule programs. This is just a really fun video to go through and to make, and just everything. Like, the premise of a Disney UFO documentary was just so cool to me, I had to do it twice. This is about a 43-minute documentary that you can watch on YouTube, but if you just want the condensed version, well, yeah, here you go. It's not lazy to essentially remake a video I wasn't happy with, okay? Like, it's my channel. I'm not making money off of this. Leave me the fuck alone. Why am I preparing for, like, shit that I'm not getting? Either way, UFOs, Disney, that's a weird combo. But that's about it. That's where the documentary really ends. It just kind of shifts from abductions, cover-ups, to, hey, look at this new attraction at Disneyland. I don't think I'm gonna need to redo this video a third time. So, with all that being said, bye.